Welcome to Movie Recall. In this video, we'll be going through the 2014 movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's time to recall, let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see that the villainous criminal organization known as the Foot Clan has been terrorizing New York City, led by the ruthless Shredder. This man wants nothing but to spread evil and put an end to good in the world. He wants to rule the world according to his own rules. We then go on to see the birth of the Ninja Turtles. From the very beginning, they are told that they are supposed to protect this world at any cost. They are currently being trained for their upcoming mission, which is to take down Shredder. The scene then changes to the docks and we see a reporter named April O'Neil who pesters a dock worker for information on chemical materials that the Foot Clan may be involved with. Not getting any answers, she and her cameraman Vern Fenwick go into the city to do a puff piece on trampoline fitness. April wants to do better stories, but Vern assures her that some people enjoy these kind of stories the same way that they enjoy foam on coffee. April, on the other hand, wants to do something big and does not like doing or covering these petty things at all. April goes on to call a man at the docks and tells him that she wants some information from them, adding that she would like to interview them. The man on the phone goes on to tell her that one of his men is going to see her at the docks and he will help her out. April learns from the dock worker that something is being brought in by the docks. She rides her bike there at night to find the Foot Clan, led by the Lieutenant Karai, preparing to bring something in. April tries to get footage on her phone when a shadowy figure shows up and takes out the foot soldiers one by one. The figure leaves behind a symbol that April recognizes. April tells her roommate Taylor about this, and also at work her boss Bernadette Thompson, but nobody seems to believe her or care about what she has to say. They all go on to make fun of her, and her boss tells her to go home. The scene changes, and we are taken to an event. The spotlight is on a man named Eric who happens to be an influential personality as he has a big lab and his goal is to save the world from the evil powers lurking around. He goes on to speak to the audience and tells them that he is going to create many things to ensure that the people of New York City are safe. The scene then changes and we see a man with his hands tied behind his back and a foot soldier trying to attack him, but the man easily takes the soldier down. This man is Shredder. Karai reports to him about the vigilante activity and that these non-human creatures must be stopped. A woman goes on to confront him about this and she is pissed. She seems like the real boss there and Shredder tells her that her men are too weak and they need strong people on their team. Shredder wants to make a powerful team to get the job done as soon as possible. On the other hand, April is also at the event where Eric is speaking to an audience. She is so impressed by the man and she decides that he is going to be her ideal. We learn that April is familiar with Eric and vice versa because April's dad used to be Eric's colleague. He approaches April and goes on to tell her that she has been doing a great job as a reporter, adding that she will surely become something big one day. We learn that the NYPD has decided to team up with Eric to take down the Foot Clan for good. After the event, April and Vern drive home while they see the terrorized New Yorkers scrambling all around the streets. April leaves the van to check it out. She sees that people are being taken hostage by this terror group and decides that she is going to catch the whole thing live. She makes her way to the area from where the people are running. When she thinks that no one is going to notice her, she moves forward only to be grabbed by a foot soldier and thrown in with other hostages. Karai, the leader of the Foot Clan, goes on to call out the vigilantes to show themselves, or the foot soldiers will execute the hostages. Just as she is about to shoot April, the Ninja Turtles catch them on their cameras, and then ride the subway to find the Foot Clan and beat them down easily, freeing the hostages in the process. All of this happens so quickly that April is unable to see or capture anything for that matter. She decides that she is going to capture these Ninja Turtles, so April runs out and climbs a fire escape to find the turtles on the roof. She snaps a picture, which startles them. She gets grabbed and is confronted by the turtles, causing her to faint. When she comes back to her sense, she meets the four heroes in a half-shell: the leader Leonardo, the brainy Donatello, rebellious Raphael, and goofball Michelangelo. Donnie wipes April's phone and Leo hands it back to her. They then go on to tell her that they are the four Teenage Ninja Turtles and their mission is to save this world from the evil powers. They warn her not to tell anybody about them or they'll find her. Mikey reiterates this, and it's obvious he's attracted to April. The turtles leave, but April still manages to get a picture of them from a distance. April right away runs home and opens a box filled with documents, pictures, and videos on Project Renaissance because she thinks that she has heard these names before. This is what her father and Sax were working on. April sees a video of her as a kid recording in her father's lab using a mutagen on the turtles and Splinter pre-mutation. She personally named them and fed them pizza, which they all loved. She even recognizes the symbol from earlier as meaning family. She then goes on to recall the good old times when her father used to be around and she used to play with these turtles. There also used to be a rat named Splinter. She sees it on the video as well. The scene then changes and the turtles try to sneak back into their lair without alerting Splinter. However, he manages to catch them and goes on to ask them where they were. They do not tell him anything, so he punishes them by making them maintain balance on certain items until they tell them why they were out on the streets. Splinter breaks Mikey by tempting him with, of course, pizza. Mikey admits that they were out fighting the Foot Clan. Splinter gets pissed and goes on to ask them if they were seen by anyone out there, and when he mentions April's name, Splinter is alarmed and he orders the turtles to go find her. April continues digging into the turtles' past and she tells her boss, Thompson, about what she saw the previous night. Unfortunately, the boss does not believe her one bit, adding that April has gone crazy, and this of course gets her fired. Afterwards, she gets out of the office and runs to Vern. She tells him to take her to Eric as she needs his help. Vern takes her to the Sachs estate so she can personally ask Eric about what he and Dr. O'Neill were working on. She also goes on to tell Vern that she saw mutant turtles, but he doesn't believe her either. April then gets to Eric's place and she goes on to tell him everything she has seen. She shows the man the photo of the turtles. She then goes on to tell him that she has seen and talked to these turtles. They call themselves the 4 Teenage Ninja Turtles. She asks him how on earth this is possible. April finally asks him what he and her father were up to, and he takes her into his room to tell her about his past in Japan, being abandoned by his father and learning of a legend about a ruthless warlord in the area. He goes on to tell her that if she ever runs into any of these turtles again, she is right away supposed to let him know. He then gives April his card, telling her to let him know if she needs help with anything. April right away gets back home and logs onto her computer to find some news on the turtles in the subway, only to find that one of the turtles named Donatello hacked her computer and sent her an address for her to meet them at. She goes alone and the turtles take her into their lair. There she meets Splinter, who remembered April before he mutated. He tells her that her father was working with Eric and Shredder, but learned that Shredder was planning something evil, and so Dr. O'Neill burned the lab down at the cost of his own life. April saved Splinter and the turtles, and she took them to the sewers to be safe. He goes on to tell the turtles that all of them owe her their lives. The mutagen later took effect and turned Splinter into a walking and talking rat that raised the turtles as his sons. The boys were always curious about life above the surface, but Splinter tried to keep them away, and instead taught himself the art of ninjutsu when he finds a ninja book. He goes on to say that he knew that if his sons were to survive in the world, then they had to be able to protect themselves, so he trained the turtles as well, and when they were ready, he armed them with their trademark weapons, as Leo with his katanas, Donnie with his bow staff, Raph with his sai, and Mikey with his nunchucks. Splinter then goes on to express his thanks to April for protecting them. Splinter then goes on to tell her that Eric is the one who actually killed her father, and this is when we learn that Eric is actually working for Shredder. And they also talk about his armor, which has been given some upgrades. The Foot Clan then manages to track the location of the lair. They infiltrate the place, triggering an alarm that alerts the turtles. The foot soldiers break in with a bomb and blow the place open. The turtles fight the soldiers, and Splinter gets in on the action himself. Mikey brings April to a safe spot before returning to fight. Shredder enters the lair decked out in his armor with multiple knives on each arm. He faces off with Splinter, who dodges Shredder's knives and gets in a few good hits as well. Splinter shuts the doors to protect his sons, but they lift him up in time to see Shredder grab Splinter and hold him before the turtles, threatening to kill him if they don't lay down their weapons. They do so, but Shredder still hits Splinter hard enough to take him out, while the soldiers cattle prod the Leo, Donnie, and Mikey, capturing them and then blowing the lair up. Raph emerges from the rubble and goes with April to take Splinter to rest. He pleads with Raph to save his brothers and stop Shredder. Raph gets ready to spring into action. They need to get there as soon as possible, because if Eric is able to extract the mutant out of them, this world is going to be destroyed because no one is going to save the people. April right away calls Vern to take her and Raph to the Sachs estate again. She again tells Vern about what just happened, but he does not believe her at all. He then sees Raph and, of course, he's shocked. He complies and drives them to Eric's place. In the laboratory beneath his home, Sachs holds Leo, Donnie, and Mikey in cages, trying to extract their blood that contains mutagen. His and Shredder's plan is to infect the city with a toxin that would quarantine the city and then seize control over everyone with the mutagen to use as a cure. Outside, Vern rams through the gate, running over foot soldiers. Raph busts out of the van to go find his brothers. April and Vern follow. Raph fights Shredder on his own while April tries to free the others by giving them an adrenaline injection. This allows them to bust out and help Raph fight Shredder before the villain flees. The heroes then go on to hijack a truck with Karai and the foot soldiers chasing after them. The soldiers hit the truck with an RPG, causing them to slide down the mountain. The turtles slide down the mountain on their shells, taking out the Foot Clan trucks by slamming into them or flipping them over. Donnie calculates a big drop happening momentarily. Karai hooks onto Leo as he tries to save April and Vern, causing her truck to tumble over and crash into a tree. Ralph pulls Leo, April, and Vern up in time. They then head over to the city to stop Shredder. Shredder and Sax make it back to Sax's tower to release the toxin. April and Vern go to look for the mutagen while the turtles take Shredder on. They charge in with Mikey yelling "Cowabunga!" The turtles gang up on Shredder, but he makes it abundantly clear that it is not a walk in the park to fight a power like him. On the other hand, April manages to secure the mutagen as Vern knocks Eric out, even after Eric shoots Vern in the arm. The turtles then band together with a maneuver that allows them to push Shredder off the roof. Donnie goes to stop the toxin's release as Shredder pulls himself back up. Leo, Raph, and Mikey continue to hold him off, and Donnie is able to stop the release with a second to spare. Shredder tries to knock the top of the tower down, and the turtles try holding it back. April gets to the roof and shows off the mutagen to Shredder to distract him. The top of the tower comes crashing down as Shredder lunges at April and throws them both off. They hang on for dear life, and the turtles try to save April. Shredder tries to finish them off, but Leo throws his katana at him, causing Shredder to lose balance and fall to the ground. The top of the tower comes loose, taking April and the turtles with it. Raph admits his brash behavior was out of fear for his brothers, and he admits that he loves them, right before he realizes they landed safely. Mikey notices he's crying, but Raph brushes it off. They return to the sewers. The citizens then crowd around Shredder, who slightly moves his hand with mutagen on his fingers. The turtles vanish before the humans find them and return to the sewers, where they give Splinter the mutagen and he begins to recover. Sometime later, April meets with Vern, who tries and fails to ask her on a date. The turtles appear in a special modified turtle van, and Michelangelo accidentally blows up Vern's new car with a rocket. As the police respond to the explosion, the turtles leave, but not before Mikey tries to serenade April with "Happy Together" by the band The Turtles, much to his brother's annoyance and April's amusement. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.